Guys, welcome back to another training. Today we're going to be going over how to get out of survival mode, how it's keeping us stuck in a loop, and how to finally actually break free once and for all. So if you're somebody who's coming here today because you're stuck in life, you're in a lot of pain, you're dealing with a lot of fear, or you feel like you're just unfulfilled and there's so much more that's waiting for you, but you can't seem to grasp it, or you can't seem to stay consistent long enough to get it and actually change your life, this is going to be the training for you today. So what we're going to go over here today is I'm going to first break down with you where most of us are when it comes to the paradigm, when it comes to the overall human frequency chart, whatever you want to call it, where most of us live, why we're stuck in survival mode, and why only a certain few of us can get to that free flow, what I call the higher mind. And those are the people where they kind of radiate the room. They're fully authentically themselves. They seem like they kind of just got life figured out. I'm going to share with you how you can get to that level here today. Now, we're also going to go over the trap, how it works, where it comes from, why we get stuck, and again, how to separate ourselves from the animal mind and tap into the higher mind. Let's jump in. So, first and foremost, the trap. If you look over here, what you're going to notice is kind of the cycle that most of us get stuck in, okay, in your adult life. So typically what happens is you're in your comfort zone. Comfort zone can be anything that has just been extremely consistent for you over the past years. Comfort zone can be ways of thinking, ways of believing about yourself, your job, your family situation, whatever it may be. That is the comfort zone, what is safe and secure. We got this pain that goes on. What happens as a human is eventually when the pain of staying the same gets strong enough, we then build desire. And that desire then fuels us to take action to start to change our lives. What happens here, after a while taking action, is that we start to have an identity mismatch. This is when your core identity, so your identity is who you believe you are, is now not in alignment with the actions you're taking. And how the brain works, the animal brain, is that this is an immediate alert. Because what you're doing is you're stepping out of the comfort zone. Who do you think you are stepping out of the cave? Right? The allegory of the cave Plato talks about, where the person steps outside the cave and they see the beyond, they see the light, they see the beauty. But everyone in the cage is like, you're crazy, get back in here. It's scary out there. We don't know what it's like out here, but we know what it's like in here in this cave. Come back. The one who exits the cave, that's what I'm going to help you get to today, right? That freedom, that flow. The one who exits the cave, they push through those fears. They realize there's so much beauty beyond. There's so much abundance. There's so much more life to it. I know if you're here watching this video, I know somewhere inside, you probably feel that as well, like I did. So we take this action, and we have an identity mismatch. And the brain's job is to protect you. It wants you to stay secure. It wants you to stay alive. So you have this identity, which is who you believe you are. Then you have your ego underneath that, and that is the protector of the identity. Now, when there's an identity mismatch, the ego hates that. But also your brain hates that as well because it sees it as a threat. This is new. This is change. I don't like this because I don't know if you're going to be safe and secure. So now your nervous system is filtering everything as, is this a threat? Is this not a threat? If it's new, it's all a threat. So now you're feeling rattled up. You don't feel good inside. This is where new stuff starts to happen and the inner conflict comes around. And this is where you start to get stressed out. You start to freeze in life. You start to procrastinate. You start to have these terrible negative thoughts about yourself and you start to self-sabotage. Okay? Or maybe every time you get a win, you celebrate in the wrong way. Whatever it may be, there's so many ways to go about it that we do personally. And then what happens eventually is after we go through this, is the freeze. Okay? So we freeze up, we start to collapse back to our old identity, and then the cycle repeats. Because when we collapse, we go back to the comfort zone. And then in the comfort zone, we eventually build up the pain because, again, you're trying to get away from that comfort for a reason. And we often forget that when we hit here because our mind gets filled up with new thoughts, old thoughts of the old self, right? Up here, the desire is like, that's the motivation. The fire's there. You're wanting to change your life. But once you bring it around here and you get to that new and you're really, you're staying consistent for a little bit, then it's that conflict. So now you're having these completely different thoughts and feelings. And it's all just to collapse you back to the comfort zone so you can get back to your old ways. But again, we're trying to get away from there for a reason, right? So eventually what happens over time, the pain builds up again. We feel more shame. We feel more guilt. We feel more terrible about ourselves, right? We're stuck in the survival paradigm. And then the cycle repeats. And then we wonder, I can't change my life. Success is for those kind of people. There's something wrong with me. We try to make it make sense in our brains. Here's the thing. You're not lazy. You're not unmotivated. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. This is just how your programming works. And notice, nobody taught us this growing up. Nobody taught us this. So that's why I'm going to show you today on how you can break free from this trap and actually genuinely live and be the person you want to be. Live the life you actually want to live. Because imagine this for a second. Most of us, we live in a state of shame, guilt, fear, anger. That's a survival paradigm. That is the animal brain completely taking control. What that means is that think about, through time evolution, where back way back in the day when we had tribes, you had to fit in with the tribe, right? Your brain is still the similar way of that. You still have that animal part of you. So back then, that part of you, and especially at a young little tiny age as a baby, you're just learning how to grow up in the world, how to function. You're getting conditioning programmed into you, beliefs programmed into you. Experiences are shaping who you are. You're learning about the world and how to basically, number one is to survive, right? How do I survive in this world? That's what it's all about at the start. Then you grow up into these communities and society and these tribes and your parenting, and that shapes you as well as a person, right? Okay, I can't speak up to the tribe leader because if I speak up, I'll get kicked out. And if I get kicked out back in the day, that means I'm going to die, right? I can't go do these things because if I do that, then again, I'll get kicked out of the tribe. I'll get in trouble. I won't survive, whatever it may be. So it's all about survival and safety. And that part of us is still in us to this day. Even though the world has changed, the brain is still very similar to the way it was right from the beginning for us. So we stay stuck in survival paradigm. All right. And there's 3 layers that I set this up here today. So first one, think of this as like the caterpillar stage. Caterpillar stage is where you're just kind of stuck in survival mode. You're stuck in the animal brain. You only use logic. You only are trapped to what you can perceive, which is from the core beliefs, the fears that you have. That shapes your perception on life. You're kind of trapped in that there. And then there's the cocoon stage. The cocoon stage, called the neutral stage, this is where you go on that courageous journey. You take the leap off the cliff, trusting that the next step is going to be there when you do. That is the neutral phase. That is where the caterpillar enters into the cocoon to dissolve its body, trusting that there's going to be a greater outcome. Okay? So for us, that is when we decide to make a change. We start to get a little neutral about our situation. We start to build new desires, new focuses on what we do want. We start to get a little more courageous. That's kind of where we get to. That's the middle stage. And then the third stage is the butterfly stage. That's flow and freedom. That is where you are working side by side with God, where you're completely in alignment. You express and are genuinely full of love, unconditional love. You have no attachments. You feel so healed. You feel so good within. You have so much unbelievable trust in life, and you're flowing. You're creating, acting on your passions. You're making things work. You're leading with your heart. Okay, you're tapped into that part of you again. So that is the freedom and flow. That is the butterfly stage. So at this point right now, you're probably listening and you're saying, okay, I hear you and I see a bit of what you're saying, but like, how does it actually work? Like, what do you mean that I'm trapped in my own ways? Like, how am I trapped in this game of reality? Let me show you how it works. By the way, guys, if you like this stuff, you're downloading a lot of good information right now, make sure you like and subscribe. Okay, so how do we get trapped in this cycle, right? How do we get trapped in this disempowering cycle we don't want to be in, but we find ourselves there over and over and over again? We can't seem to change our lives for the better. Here's how it works. Okay. Beautiful drawings here. Okay. Here's how it works. This is the trap. Okay. This is back here is your past. This is you now. And then over here is your external world. Okay. So this is the life that you're living, your external world experience. So how we get trapped, right? Because right now you're here and you're like, Keaton, I'm watching, I'm listening to your new evidence, but I still don't understand like how I'm trapped. Like I feel like this is just how things are. I feel like this is just how it's always going to be. I don't feel like maybe I'm not good enough to do it. Like look at my situation. You know, how do I get out of this? How can I get into that flow and freedom when I have bills to pay, when I have to figure out my finances, when I have to do all these things? I get it. I totally get you. This is why. This is how it works. So how this works is that number one, how I should explain this is that your personal beliefs and also your nervous system, okay? So your personal beliefs, think of your personal beliefs, and this is about like what you believe to be true about yourself, the world, everything. Your personal beliefs are the instructions to your brain. Your brain then goes out into your external world and looks for evidence to reconfirm that belief. So it looks for evidence to reconfirm your core beliefs. And the reasoning is because your brain isn't looking to be right or wrong. It's looking for what? Predictability, safety, and security. How can I keep this human alive? And the only way to do so is that you go back to your core beliefs that you have, because that's what you've always had. So that's what's allowed you to live and function in this world, right? That's your certain place in this world based off the belief systems. You're good enough or not. Money is free, money is stressful. Love equals stress, love equals unconditional love is the right way. All these different beliefs that we have about everything. That's what you've always had. So your brain's going to keep finding that in the external world to reconfirm the core belief system. Okay, and we're going to go deep there here soon. Also, your nervous system. Your nervous system is basically a filter, and it determines what is safe or what is a threat. So when you see something, for example, two people go into the city and they're going to have a total different experience based on their nervous system, their state. And the reason why is because let's say you're going in the city and you had a lot of trauma growing up and you have to feel like you're on protective mode and all these different experiences shaped who you are, right? And you go to someone who they've healed themselves, they've done the work. So they're in a calm, relaxed state. And you see a guy walking by with a black jacket, okay? And you see all these things happening in the city. If you're in the survival mode, you're looking for all the threats. You're constantly searching and analyzing all the threats. And then that then shapes your personal perception, which then influences your thoughts and feelings. And then that influences your overall actions. So you could walk around the city extremely scared and worried and not go down to certain places because of your nervous system. It's controlling all of that. And the other person could be like, hey, I love the city. It's so free. It's so beautiful here. Look at all the art. Oh my God, everything's so amazing here. You guys are seeing the same thing, but you're seeing it differently. So the beliefs are the instructions, but then your brain has to go out and search for the external world to reconfirm the same beliefs. Your nervous system gets kind of the lens on how you also perceive that life as well. And where this comes from, where your nervous system, how it kind of stabilizes, where your beliefs come from, is your past. Okay, so I did a training on this recently. Your past experiences. Okay, your parents, society, right? Your conditioning. I don't know if I spelled conditioning right, but that's all right. You guys get what I'm saying. Parents, society, your culture. Okay, trauma. All of these things form what we call is sense of self, which is the identity. So, all of these things at a young age form eventually your sense of self. Okay, before your mind's a sponge, absorbing all the information, learning how to survive, then it forms your sense of self, which is your identity. Now, identity is created through thoughts and emotions. Identity is who you believe you are. So as soon as your sense of self is formed, then you go back into your past and make sense and give meaning to all these experiences and things that happen to you to make sure it aligns with the identity. This is who I am. Okay? This is why, at a young age, someone could take a cookie off the jar, out of the jar, and maybe your mom didn't give you one, but she gave the guest, and you could give that meaning of like, I'm just not good enough. I didn't get that cookie because I'm just not good enough. And that could literally become what you believe to be true about yourself. That's how powerful this is. That's how powerful this is, especially at a young mind. So that's how your past works. And then the next thing that keeps you trapped as well is your ego. Your ego. It literally speaks through you. Why? Ego is not a bad thing, but the ego is going to protect your identity at all cost. So if you believe you're an unworthy person, if you believe you're an ugly person, when that person walks by you on the street and they give you a neutral face, your ego, you might give that meaning of, oh, that person just thinks I'm ugly. That person thinks I'm a terrible person as well. I'm just so miserable to be around. Is any of that actually true? No. But it's true to you personally. It's your personal experience because that ego is just doing its job, which is protecting who you believe you are. And sadly, a lot of us, we grow up with very limiting beliefs, limiting ideas, very traumatic experiences. We grow up with a lot of different challenging ways and things happening to us. I mean, look at the world, right? If everything was healed, we would all be getting along. We would all be in alignment. We'd all be following our passions and our purpose. But the world's not like that right now. It's not like that right now. So we all have a job to do, which is healing ourselves, changing ourselves. The world changes when you change yourself, right? So again, your external world is a reflection of your internal world. So that's kind of how it works, is your past then forms all of this. Then your brain goes out. So you form your sense of self, which then you give meaning to those situations, which then also influence the beliefs that you have, right? Stabilized into your nervous system. That filters how you perceive the world, but also your belief system is looking for evidence in your external world to reconfirm itself over and over and over again. Okay, you guys with me so far? So it goes as far to the beliefs that you have will influence the meaning, what you focus on, how you feel about things, how you think, literally how you act in the world. It will all come from your core beliefs. Because core beliefs create identity. Identity creates overall behaviors. Identity is formed through thoughts and emotions held over time, which come from your beliefs. And the way we give meaning, because nothing has inherent meaning. But when something, like, for example, when a situation happens, it's just a situation. But with your perception, with your focus, with your limited ability to look at the situation for how it is, you then assign meaning to that situation, positive or negatively, depends on what you believe to be true, right? Terrible situation happened in my life. And everyone's like, oh, it's a shame that happened to you. But that situation might actually save me moving forwards. So what can I do? I could just say it is what it is, right? I'm just going to do my part and focus on feeling good, doing what I want to do. This thing happened that I can't control. I'm not going to assign a terrible meaning to it. Why would I suffer for no reason? Because it literally has no meaning. It just is. But we give situations meaning based off that core programming. So you can see just how that one thing alone can shape so much of our lives, right? So when we're stuck in survival mode, all right, when we're stuck in survival mode, like, I'm just trying to get by, I'm just trying to pay the bills. What that means is that we're just stuck with very limited beliefs. Think of it like this. Your authentic self is like this, right? And your limited self is like this. If you ever felt limited in your life, it didn't feel good. If you ever felt like you couldn't be yourself, it doesn't feel good. That's in a general. When we're stuck in survival mode, it doesn't feel good, especially when we're meant to be flow and free. When we're meant to be our most authentic self, acting upon our passions, our joys, and our loves. So when we can't do that, of course we're going to feel miserable. We're going to feel shame, despair, guilt, go against other people. It makes sense then. So again, we get stuck in the survival mode. We make these changes in our lives, and then now it's influencing literally how you see your external world. So you're trying to make changes, right? You're wanting to change your job. You're wanting to build the business. You're wanting to whatever it may be. But what's happening is that when you're looking for change in your external world, you're limited to what you can see. You know, there could be opportunity. I'm going to put ops, your dreams, change. Right here, there's change. There's opportunities for you to change your life. And maybe that is a new way to make money to pay the bills. But what's happening is that when you're in a fight or flight stage, when you're in survival mode, you're limited to what your current beliefs are. You're limited to what your nervous system is allowing you to perceive. So you can't step outside the prison that you've built. You can only see within the dimensions of the prison that you're in. And that's why you're staying stuck, because you're only seeing the same stuff that you always see. You're only thinking the same way you've always thought. You're only feeling the same way you've always felt. Therefore, you're only acting long term in a way that you've always acted. And that means you're going to get the same results. The definition of insanity is wanting change, but doing the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't work like that. So now what you might be wondering is, okay, Caden, I'm understanding a little bit more. So basically what you're saying is that the reason why a lot of us get stuck in survival mode is, number one, from our past conditioning and how we're brought up into the world, what we believe to be true, and then that limits our view on this life. For example, the belief of like, I'm just not good enough, I'm not worthy enough. When you believe that to be true, are you going to go follow your dreams and your passions? No. Why? Because you're not good enough. So you can't do that. So play small, right? Listen to your parents rather than your soul. That's what a lot of us do. So we're stuck surviving. We're just trying to get by. We're just trying to get to the weekend so we can numb ourselves out of how we truly, genuinely feel. That's not life. That's not living. That's surviving. You didn't come here to hide under a rock and survive. You came here to experience yourself in every extent possible, right? The good and the bad. So how do we get out of this, right? Well, we need to see outside of ourselves. We need to take this perspective, this lens, and we need to expand it. So that way we can see the dreams, we can see the change, we can see the opportunities. So how do we do that? This is how we get out of survival mode. Okay? So how are we able to, if we want to truly genuinely make change in our lives, right? How can we get our perspective to expand where it is like so? How can we expand our awareness? How can we have that awareness? Because when you can expand your perspective, when you can see more, you see more opportunities. You think outside the box, right? You can genuinely change your life. How do we do that? How do we do that when the world keeps telling us who we are? For example, here's what I mean. Right now, you're struggling to pay bills. You don't have a job. You're in a terrible crisis. You're dealing with a lot of stress. Your health is terrible. You're super unfulfilled at your job. Your relationships in crumbles. How do you make a change when that's all you experience in your life? When literally the world is screaming at you, hey, this is who you are. You are broke. You are struggling. You are suffering. There is war all around you. How do you change your life then? This is how you do it. Okay? So we know that the way we're seeing things come from the core beliefs that we have, right? And the fears, I should say. And also the lens, the filter on it also comes from the nervous system. Okay. So if I want my world to change, if I want to get out of survival mode, well, then I need to focus on these pieces right here. Okay, because if I don't focus on these pieces here, if I don't change those, I'm going to keep seeing the same stuff. I'm going to keep experiencing the same stuff. So this is what we got to do. All right. So the first and foremost, that we're going to put a big line down here. And this is where you're going to start to get a little delusional. Delusional as in, you're going to start to believe differently about yourself, even though the world does not reflect it yet. Every massive success in life who's ever created an empire had to be delusional because they saw something that everyone else didn't see. So everyone else is like, I don't see it. You're crazy. You're never going to do that. They saw the vision. That's all that mattered. So you have to get a little delusional. You can't pay too much attention to your world right now, right? Because if you keep feeding the bad wolf is going to keep living. So if you're stuck right now, you don't have a job, you're struggling with your finances, you're not happy, you're stuck in survival mode. If you keep thinking and feeling that way, guess what's going to keep sticking around? We understand it's there. Why keep giving it life, right? So we got to get a little delusional. So the first things first that you want to do, though, to create any kind of change, we need to calm the nervous system. Because when you're in fight or flight, when you're in survival, did you know that number one, your body doesn't even heal itself? Your genes will actually express themselves in poor ways. So that passed down like family history of heart disease, wherever it may be, those genes do get expressed when you're in a constant stressful state. That's how powerful your belief system is, okay? Because beliefs create thoughts and emotions. So in order to genuinely change, because another thing too is when you're in a fight or flight state, you have brain fog. You can't think clearly. Your body is literally not functioning the way it needs to function in order for you to change. So understand, first of all, you're here right now. You have every single thing you need. You are most beyond abundant possible. Why? Because you have more than enough for every single thing you need in this exact moment. Right now, right now, right now, right now. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is we need to calm the nervous system. So we need to get you into a calm state. Ways you know if you're not in a calm state is if your mind is racing with constant thoughts, if your breathing is very, very heavy, okay? Those are some ways to know that you're not in a calm, relaxed state. So the first thing you gotta do is you gotta calm the body. Calm the body to tame the mind, right? Exhaust the body to tame the mind, one of my mentors always said. So ways you can do that is grounding out in nature, proper breath work, getting your breath under control, doing a meditation, going to workout. The reason why we want to do that is because those are all things that you can do that's going to put you in a calm, relaxed state to get you out of that fight or flight state. Because right now you're in fight or flight, and we need to get you calm and relaxed so we can start to change your state. We can start to make changes. So that's the first thing I need you to do is I need you to find something that grounds you, relaxes you. For me, it is meditation, and it always is journaling and also working out. Those are some of the main things that I do. When I do those things and going out to nature, I feel very calm, relaxed. I feel so much better. So that's the first thing I need you to do. Once you can calm the nervous system, right? Now we can start to change up the filter. We're not always looking for threats. So now we can start to change how we think about things, how we feel about things, because we're not just scanning for threats all the time, right? We're not just looking on why everything is not working out for us. We can actually start to look out on why things can work out for us. So, calm the nervous system. The second thing that you're going to want to do then, after you calm the nervous system, is we need to change your beliefs. We need to change the beliefs that you have, and we need to cut the fear out. So we need to eliminate the fears that we have that's causing us to feel and think this way, and we need to change the beliefs that we have as well. And the reason why I say that is because your beliefs create your thoughts and emotions, right? So your beliefs create your thoughts and emotions. So that dictates how you overall feel, your state of being, which creates your identity, which is going to influence your actions, which is going to be the thing that actually changes your life. right? To get you to a new place. So this is why, in order to change your beliefs, I need you to focus here on the inner work, okay? Focus on your inner state rather than your outer world, okay? Because we already know what that's been like. That is a reflection right now of the old self. So we don't want to give too much attention to that. Because if you keep doing that, you're going to keep reconfirming the old story and stay stuck. So calm yourself and then get delusional. Stop paying attention to the external world results right now and what it's showing you. And instead, go inner and then focus on a new state. So new state is new thoughts and emotions about yourself. Dissecting the beliefs that you have that's causing you to feel this fear in the first place. Because remember, no matter how your situation is, it just is, good or bad. The way that we are perceiving it creates how we feel about it. And the way we perceive it is not universal as one. It's personalized to us. Two people could go through the same thing and react to it differently moving forwards. Okay? And it just depends on how they perceived it. And how you perceive your situation right now comes from what you believe to be true and what you're most scared of. So if we can change, because a lot of people, when you're trying to help someone who's depressed, it's like, well, just think positively. Look at things in a different lens. It's like, well, they might not be able to do that right now because their beliefs are influencing them in a different way. So their perceptions only focus on reconfirming the evidence it has. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad for them. It's just doing its job. So that's why you have to be delusional to what is, right? You're broke, you're poor, you're in a terrible situation with your relationship, whatever it may be. You're stuck in survival mode. You hate your life. You gotta be a little delusional. You gotta understand and say, hey, you know what? This is the story of my life that's been playing out. I'm sick and tired of feeding that life. So I'm going to start to create a new life. How do you create a new life? You don't wait for the world to change. You change, and then you go out and you change in the world, right? So I got to stop paying attention to what is. I understand that is where it is. It's not going to go away anytime soon, okay? Not instantly. So what can I do then? I can focus on myself, okay? I can focus on myself because when I change myself, everything else changes as well. And how you create change in the world is you, as a person, you need to act differently. But the only way that you can act differently over time consistently is if you have a new identity, right? And if you have a new identity, that means you need new beliefs because identity is created through thoughts and emotions. So as soon as you change your beliefs and the brain is like, okay, that's safe and secure. I see evidence for that. I see how that can be. Instead of you being bad and not a good person, I see how you can be a worthy person. You're good enough. You're an abundant person. Everything works out for you. Okay, let's go with this belief. I see the evidence. Now let's reconfirm that. How are you going to think? How are you going to feel? What's the state that would be? And then what you want to do as you change those beliefs is you step into that state. As soon as you get into that state, despite what's going on in your external world, right? Even if you're super broke, step in the state of what it's like to be abundant and rich. And then take action however you can. Because now what you're doing is you're taking aligned action. And that's how you get out of survival mode and start raising yourself up. Raise your vibration, they say. Okay? So you have to change your core beliefs. So you got to be a little bit delusional to what the external world is because that is a projection of your old belief system, which is going to keep you in survival mode. And you're in survival mode because you probably just have a lot of limited beliefs about yourself and the world, which is okay. Most of us do. So when you can start to expand your belief system, you start to expand your mind, then what you see in the world expands as well. So those opportunities start to pop up. The lucky people don't just get randomly lucky. Lucky people get lucky because they believe they're lucky. You ever meet somebody who's like, I got the worst luck in the world, nothing ever works out for me, and it's true? Yeah, it's because that's what they believe to be true about themselves. The brain's always going to support you unconditionally. Your belief system will. So someone believes they're not lucky. they're going to think in ways like everything's a scam, nothing works out for me, and they're going to only find evidence on why things are a scam and nothing works out. They're only going to read articles on why investing in the stock market is dangerous and not good, why you should never take that risk, why you should never build a business. They're just looking for confirmation, right? That evidence. And then that's going to make them never take a risk. They're never going to take a risk. They're never going to step outside the comfort zone. They're never going to try to change. And they're stuck in that frequency of I'm an unlucky person. They're just finding themselves in unlucky situations, and they feel it and they think it. So someone who believes they're lucky, right? They feel lucky, they think lucky, they look outside the box, they look at opportunities, how ways to change, on what to invest in, on what to try. Here's the thing, they might even fail more than the unlucky person, but they don't look at it as failure because they're like, I'm a lucky person. Things always work out for me. So I messed that up. That failed, probably for a good reason, but I'm going to keep trying. And guess what? They get lucky. But no, they just kept trying because it all comes down to the belief system. And they go out and reconfirm the evidence, right, in the external world to confirm the beliefs that they have. Crazy stuff. So you change your belief system. Okay, if you change your belief system, it'll change how you see the world, and you'll see more opportunities. You'll see things differently, and you will start to get out of survival mode. Now, I'm going to share with you one last thing before we end it off today. Okay, because now you're wondering, like, okay, well, change my beliefs. Okay, I'm pretty much getting it now, but could you maybe explain to me one more time on how my beliefs get me out of survival mode? Like, how are my beliefs going to change my bills? Well, first of all, when you start to believe differently, you start to see things differently, you start to focus on things differently, you start to think, you feel differently, and therefore you act differently, which does get you different results. But here's how it works. So you have your frequency chart, right? Which we'll say this section is the flow, right? So this is like love, abundance, joy. This is the neutral state, right? So you have courage, etc. I don't need to write it. And this is survival. Okay. When somebody's in a survival state, what do you think their beliefs are going to be around love, life, around money, around success, around luck, around self-worth, around self-improvement? What do you think their beliefs are going to be around that? When someone is stuck in survival mode in their life, where they're just trying to get by, they're just trying to pay the bills, they're always stressed out and things are never going their way, what do you think they believe? Okay? Because this is a state, which means that is your dominant emotion. And we know now that your dominant emotional state comes from the core beliefs that you have. So if they're feeling angry and despair, what do they probably believe to be true when it comes to their self-worth? That they are not worthy. Oh, well, I must not be worthy. I don't have any money, right? Things never work out for me. I'm not smart enough to change my life. I'm not a worthy person. What do they think about love? Love is a fairy tale. True love is a fairy tale because all I find in my love life is stress and pain. Okay, what about life itself? Life is evil. Life is hard. Life is evil. There's no opportunities. Money equals hard to make, right? Money equals stress. Success, not for me. It's only lucky people, right? Lucky. Sorry, my writing is getting worse and worse. Okay, luck, not lucky. That's what they're going to believe. And this creates their state and keeps them stuck in that survival mode. Because what happens then is state, when I say state, think of state as identity. Okay? So then ego is like, sure, identity, I'll protect this. So then people who are really stuck and don't have an open mind might watch this and be like, yeah, it's easy for you to say, you don't understand it. Like, I hear you, but you don't understand it. No, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. That's not who you want to be. That's only a part of you, and that's conditioning that's coming through your mouth. But it's not the full you. You have to realize how genuinely powerful and unbelievable potential you have as a being. You have to believe that. You have to genuinely believe that. Because again, your belief systems will always unconditionally support you. So if you believe you're broken and there's something wrong with you, you're going to find evidence of that in your external world. That will be your personal truth. But I'm not buying into that crap because I do not believe in disempowering people. I believe we are unbelievably powerful as beings, as souls. So you have these limiting beliefs, right? They're limiting beliefs because they're negative, they're disempowering, and that influences your state, okay, which is your most dominant emotion, which puts you in whatever paradigm, right? Anger, resentment, fear, whatever. And that your state is your identity, and your ego protects that. And that's why some of us stay stuck, right? So as we expand our beliefs on self-worth, on love, right? On the world, on life, on money as well, as we expand, then we can hit new levels of being. And we can get out of survival mode. We can get to neutral. And we can get to that butterfly stage once and for all, right? For example, around love, a lot of people don't do love the right way because we were brought up to believe that in order to get love, you have to go do things in the external world. You have to earn love. Love is something that you need to control because you can't trust people and all this crap. But in reality, you should just love unconditionally. Let people do what they want. They'll show you who they are. And if you're not in alignment with them, then they go and you will find someone who's in alignment. But most of us are like, I'm scared and I don't want to let that person go. I don't know who I'd be if I lost them. And they make me feel so good and I can't get that anywhere else. That is creating toxicity. That is creating unhealthy love. That's not unconditional love. And that's all coming from your trust in things not working out and these limiting beliefs that you have about yourself and the world and these fears that we have not yet worked through. So now they're projected into our external world. But when you do the inner work, when you change yourself within, when you expand your mind at the highest way possible, you will feel like you are now creating your personal reality. You're playing the game of life rather than reacting to life. And that is going to change everything for you. And ladies and gentlemen, that is a training for today on how to get out of survival mode, the trap, and truly become the creator of your personal life and rise to that butterfly stage. I'll see you guys soon. Make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much.